Welcome to Chinese History and Mythology. Early the next morning, court began. Wu King Jifa put on his ceremonial robes, took his seat on the throne, and the court usher shouted loudly in front of the hall, "If anyone has matters to report, step out and kneel. If not, court is dismissed." Zheng Ziya stepped forward, slowly knelt, and said, "Your Majesty, yesterday I carried out my teacher's order and placed all the fallen generals who died for the country, all the immortals who perished according to fate, and even the wicked spirits and evildoers, each of them into their proper place on the Fenjin list, according to their destiny and the divine decree. Now that the divine realm is settled, the mortal world must be settled as well. Your Majesty should now reward the lords and generals who followed you through life and death battles, and also the disciples from the mountains who came down to help. They should all receive land and titles of their own." Wu King Jifa listened and said sincerely, "I have long planned to do this. I have only been waiting for you, Prime Minister, to finish sealing the gods so I can begin sealing the people." At that moment, Li Jingye, Yang Jian, Neji, Jin Ze, Mu Ze, Wei Hu, and Lei Zhenzi stepped out together, knelt, and said, "We all come from mountain valleys, and we only descended because our teacher ordered us to help bring peace to the world. We never came for wealth, fame, or titles. Now that the great task is complete, we wish to take our leave and return to our mountains and caves to continue our cultivation. We will not stay in the court." Wu King Jifei was shocked. He stood up from the throne, walked down several steps, and said sincerely, "You don't want to stay and share this world with me. You followed me through life and death. If you leave so suddenly, I truly cannot bear it." Li Jing and the others still insisted, "Your Majesty, we came from the mountains, and we belong in the mountains. Helping the Zhou bring peace was our duty and our teacher's command. Now that the task is done, staying would only make us drinking companions, not real helpers. Leaving is better for your Majesty, and better for us." Wu King Jifa's eyes grew red as he listened. He knew he could not stop them. So he finally agreed. The next morning, the official in charge of meals from the Imperial Kitchen hurried to the southern outskirts and set up a grand feast on a wide open field. The feast was called the Nine-Dragon Banquet. Fine dishes, good wine, prepared just to send off the 7 of them. Wu King Jifa arrived and saw the 7 standing neatly before the tables. A wave of sadness hit him. He walked up and held each of their hands. "Today, we must drink to our heart's content. I want to drink with you until I'm drunk, so drunk that I don't even know which moment you left. Only then will my heart hurt a little less." During the feast, they drank cup after cup, ate plate after plate, and talked about the years of battle, the moments when they lived or died together. The comrades who'd never returned. There was laughter with tears inside it, wine filled with sighs, and as time went on, they spoke less and less, only drinking quietly, looking at one another. After many rounds, the sky darkened. The 7 men stood, bowed deeply to Wu King Jifa, then bowed to all the officials. Wu King Jifa's tears finally fell. He held their hands tightly, unwilling to let go. Eventually, he released them. Bit by bit, the 7 turned and walked away, robes fluttering, slowly fading into the distance. Zheng Ziya watched their figures disappear. He couldn't bring himself to leave yet, so he followed them silently for a while. There was no music, no banners, only the sound of wind across the open fields. At a fork in the road, the 7 bowed to Zheng Ziya one last time, then turned and left, each heading toward his mountain, his cave, his place of cultivation. Later, because they had completed their merit and had deep spiritual attainment, Li Jing, Jin Ze, Mu Ze, Naja, Yang Jian, Wei Hu, and Lei Zhenzi all ascended as immortals in their physical bodies. They no longer needed to pass through reincarnation, but served different duties in the heavens, continuing to protect the mortal world. The next morning was another day of court. Wu King Jifa took his seat, and Jiang Ziye and the royal uncle Zhou Gongdan stepped out to kneel. "Yesterday, we sent off the 7 great generals of the Daoist sect. Today, we should begin dividing the land and appointing the great lords and princes who earned merit." Wu King Jifa nodded. "Exactly. We shouldn't make everyone wait. Prime Minister and royal uncle, help me settle the appointments." Zheng Ziya and Zhou Gongdan left the hall and discussed everything: the geography of the land, the customs of each region, the merits of the lords, their ancestry. They worked through every detail and wrote a complete register to present to Wu King Jifa. On the third day, Wu King Jifa sat on the throne, and Zhou Gongdun stood in the center of the golden hall, reading the appointments aloud from the register. He first honored the ancestors, Tai Wang, Wang Ji, and Wen Wang, granting them posthumous titles as heavenly kings. Then, according to merit and bloodline, he listed the loyal ministers of past generations and the descendants of former dynasties. They were divided into 5 ranks: Gong, Hubo, Zainan. Those whose merit wasn't enough to enter the 5 ranks were made minor lords' vassal states under the larger kingdoms. Altogether, 72 states were established, spread across all the land. The land and power, once held tightly in one man's hand, were divided among many princes, nobles, and worthy descendants, so the world could be governed, watched over, and protected. After the appointments were complete, Wu King Jifa was overjoyed. He ordered a grand banquet in the palace. Another 9-dragon feast to honor the 800 lords, the 72 princes, and all officials. The hall shone with bright lanterns. Music filled the air. Wine flowed. People laughed loudly, letting years of war dissolve into one night of peace. Wu King Jifa then ordered the treasury opened and distributed part of the gold and jewels taken from the lute. Some received treasures, some fine clothes, some fine horses and swords, and some simply received sincere words of gratitude. Everyone drank until they were satisfied. The next day, lords from all regions offered their thanks, accepted their lands, and departed with their families and entourages. From that day on, the world no longer had only Keaj City. It had many new states, all under the Zhou king's rule. Zhou Gongdun and Xiao Gongxi stayed to assist the royal court. Wu King Jifa looked at the map and said, Haiyogong lies at the center of the land. The plains are wide and flat, and it sits right by the Wei River. It is truly a place fit for a capital. He ordered Xiao Gongxi to lead people to build the new capital. Later generations knew this area as the region around today's Shenyang in Shenxi. With the world stabilized, Wu King Jifa turned to Jiang Ziya. Prime Minister, you are already old, and you have worked endlessly through years of war. From now on, you don't need to concern yourself with government affairs. Return to your fief and enjoy your later years. I will miss you. Wu King Jifa granted him great rewards: palace attendants, gold and jewels, fine brocade from Shu, and the symbols of authority. The yellow battle axe and white banner. Jiang Ziya was granted the land of Qi and sent to govern it. The next day, Wu King Jifa personally led all officials to the southern outskirts for a farewell banquet. The weather was bright, flags fluttering. He raised his cup again and again. Prime Minister is the greatest founding merit of our kingdom. Without him, I would not sit here as king. The officials all agreed. After the wine, Jiang Ziya bowed to Wu King Jifa and all the officials, and his carriage slowly headed east. The people of Keaj watched from afar, seeing him off until he disappeared. When Jiang Ziya arrived in Qi, he arranged the government affairs, but soon he remembered the time when he first descended the mountain, when people in Keaj mocked him, and only Song Yuren sincerely helped him, giving him food and shelter so he wouldn't be left wandering the streets. Jiang Ziya never forgot this kindness. He sent a messenger back to Kaya with 1,000 caddies of gold, fine brocade, jade, and silk, and a personal letter of thanks. But years had passed. Song Yiren and his wife had already died, leaving only a son. The messenger delivered all the treasures to the son and explained Jiang Ziya's gratitude. The young man was moved to tears, bowing again and again. When the messenger returned and reported everything, Jiang Ziya sighed deeply. Only brother Song was truly happy for me. He added quietly, when a man grows old, all the friends he knew in his youth pass away one by one. In the end, only I remain. An old man living out his last days. His eyes grew red. He knew his name was already written on the Fenshin list. He only needed to finish this last stretch of life in the mortal world. A few more years passed. Jiang Ziya grew older and weaker. One day, he sat quietly in his residence in Qi, watching the clouds drift outside the window. His heart was peaceful. He told the attendants not to busy themselves anymore. Then he closed his eyes, as if falling asleep, and gently left the mortal world. He had lived his life, from an old man fishing by the Wei River to the prime minister who helped Wu Qingji overthrow the Shang and establish the Zhou, to an elder returning to a quiet life, and finally entrusted the world to the next generation, while he went on to fulfill his new duties as a deity on the Fenshen list. Many, many years passed. One Zhou king after another took the throne in Heogong. 800 years later, the Zhou dynasty declined. War rose again. Eventually, the Zhou fell, and new kingdoms replaced it. But no matter how the mortal world changed, the divine rankings on the Fenshen platform never vanished. Those who fought and lived alongside Jiang Ziya, some became gods of mountains and rivers, some gods of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, some guardians of cities and protectors of the people. As long as mortals look up to the sky and burn incense with hope, their names will never truly fade. Okay, friends, over this whole stretch of time, we've told the entire big story in Investiture of the Gods, about how the Shang rose and how it finally collapsed. Now let's take just a few minutes to give you a clear, smooth summary of that long, complicated tale. The whole story really starts in Kaiaji City. King Zhou of Shang was born smart and strong, and he could have been a wise ruler, but instead, he sank into pleasure, killed loyal ministers, trusted petty men, hurt the empress, harmed his own children, and dragged the whole country into misery. The lords of the land, and the people who were supposed to be his loyal subjects, were all pushed to the point where they turned away from him. At that moment, when Wang Jicheng of Ziki appeared, when Wang ruled with virtue and kindness, and his name started to spread through the land, his son, Jifa later, known as Wu Qingji then, stepped onto the road of carrying out heaven's will, led by Jiang Ziya and backed by the Zhou army. And who is Jiang Ziya? He's that old man fishing, by the way, Riv is someone who looks ordinary. But behind him stands Kunlun Mountain and the Yuan Shi Tianzun, who personally chose him to be the one in charge of the Fenshen list. From the moment Jiang Ziya came down the mountain, his path was no longer a mortal path. He had to help Wu Qingji fight his wars, and he also had to arrange all the fallen souls, the ones from the battlefield, immortals from heaven and earth, spirits and monsters, and in the end, place them one by one on the Fenshen list. From there, Investiture of the Gods truly begins. Along the way, we talked about Da Ji, the nine-tailed fox spirit who bewitched King Zhou of Shang, causing loyal minister Bai Gan to have his heart cut out, Mei Bo to be cooked alive, the empress to be killed, and Kaiags to fall deeper and deeper into darkness. We saw immortals from all sides come down to help Zhou, Li Jing, and his whole family. Najie, the third prince, Yang Jian, Lei Zhenzi, Jinza, Muza, each one showing off their powers. We saw all kinds of monsters and spirits join the stage. The 7 monsters of Maya Shin, the white ape spirit, the dog spirit, the water buffalo spirit, each with real power, and the Zhou army suffered a lot along the way. We saw Jiang Ziya and Yang Jian team up to break formations, catch monsters, and expose spirits. They relied on skill and on magic treasures, step by step closing in on Kaya. We saw Wu Qingji army cross the river at Mingyan and march all the way to the capital, pushing King Zhou of Shang back again and again. We saw the 3 consorts of King Zhou of Shang launch a night raid on the Zhou camp, only to be firmly stopped by the Zhou side. We saw the people of Keoj crushed by tyranny, open the 4 city gates at night and offer up the city. That was the true breaking point of the Shang dynasty. We saw that chaotic battle in front of the Noon Gate, with 800 lords surrounding King Zhou of Shang, the most heroic and intense fight in the whole story. We saw King Zhou of Shang burn himself to death in the star-plucking tower. Smoke covered the sky as he sat inside the tower in full imperial robes. And, in an instant, the flames swallowed the whole building. From that moment, the Shang dynasty was officially over. After that came the rise of Zhou and the rule of Wu King Jifa. He went up to the altar and received heaven's mandate. All the lords under heaven came to pay respect. Bells and drums sounded in the golden hall, and 800 lords shouted, "Long live the king," together. The Zhou dynasty officially became the new ruler of the world. Then we reached the true closing arc of the whole tale. Zhang Ziaye returned to the Fenshin platform and granted titles to all 365 gods of heaven and earth. Among them, Huang Fihu became the chief of the 5 sacred peaks. When Taishi became the 9, heaven's thunder deity, Huang Tianhua, Nangong, Shi, Yangjian, Najie, and others all became righteous gods in different posts, and even traitorous ministers like Fei Lian and Yuhun were sealed as gods of melting and breaking apart, each with a job to do. Once the Fenjin list was fully set, the positions of gods between heaven and earth were fixed in place. As for Jiang Ziya himself, Wu King Jifa honored him as the founding hero of the dynasty and granted him the land of Qi. He went there to rule in peace, and years later, he passed away quietly, going on to take his place among the gods written on the Fenshen lista at that point. The story of the Shang dynasty had finally, truly come to a full stop. Investiture of the gods preserves a complete divine hierarchy, one created by the people themselves over many centuries. So where did the gods of ancient China actually come from? There were 3 main pathways: official appointment, religious appointment, and literary appointment. Official appointment means gods were created by the imperial court. A classic example is Guan Yu, the great general of Shu Han. After his death, he kept receiving additional titles from different dynasties, and his divine rank was finalized in the Guanxu era of the Qing dynasty. We'll discuss his story in detail in later episodes. Religious appointment refers to deities recognized through organized religion, mainly Taoism in ancient China. Many familiar deities came from Taoist tradition, such as the Jade Emperor and the Grand Supreme Elder Lord. As a polytheistic system, Taoism created a massive and complex pantheon. Literary appointment means gods created by storytellers, novelists, opera writers, and folk storytellers. The gods in Investiture of the Gods belong to this category. On the Fengxian list in Investiture of the Gods, there are over 356 deities. Many of their names were accepted by the general public and absorbed into folk belief. For example, in Jiangyu, Sichuan, there is Qianyan Mountain, where Golden Light Cave is said to be the training place of Tai Zhenren. There is even a Naja's tomb on the mountain, and a Chentang Pass village below. It's supposedly the birthplace of Naja, but Chentang Pass was clearly at the seaside. Noja had to be near the ocean to stir up trouble with the Dragon King's family. Sichuan has no coast at all. This Chentang Pass village was obviously created to match Investiture of the Gods. Even so, it shows how deeply the novel has influenced local beliefs. Because of cultural traditions, regions across China also developed local deities. For instance, in Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio, there's a story called The Frog God, about people living between the Yangtze and Han rivers who worshipped a frog spirit. If anyone offended the frog god, their home would suddenly fill with frogs, and misfortune would follow soon after. Some local gods were formed from wrongful deaths. When someone died unjustly, the local people feared their vengeful spirit, so they offered incense and honored them, slowly turning them into gods. Even Guan Yu was originally worshipped not because of respect, but because he died tragically and his severed head and body were separated. People feared his angry spirit, so they worshipped him as a fierce deity. Investiture of the Gods contains elements from China's entire cultural system and even from world mythology. The author knew Chinese culture thoroughly and reconstructed its fundamental structure in the novel. The Chan sect, led by Yuan Shi Tianzun, refers symbolically to Taoism. The Ji sect, led by Tongshin Joyoju, symbolizes ancient Chinese shamanistic beliefs. Shamanism had 2 features. Many local deities, every region had its own spirits. This explains why the Ji sect had so many disciples and could muster the 10,000 immortals formation. Nature worship, animals, plants, stones, anything could be worshipped. That's why many Ji sect disciples were birds, beasts, or stone spirits, like Stone Ji, Niang Yang. So Investiture of the Gods builds a system that includes Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, and ancient shamanism. This matches the basic structure of Chinese traditional culture and the psychological world shaped by that culture. That's why the public loves Investiture of the Gods so deeply. It fits naturally into how people already understood the world. Within that cultural framework, the novel collects countless cultural elements. For example, Jiang Ziya's disciple, Longshu, who is a one-legged monster with the head of a camel, neck of a crane, whiskers of a shrimp, ears of an ox, body of a fish, hands like an oriole, and feet like a tiger. His prototype comes from the ancient beast Kui, described in the classic of Mountains and Seas. Or take the famous legend of Naje's birth as a giant meatball. This reflects a universal mythological motif: heroes born from eggs or enclosed forms, symbolizing ancient humanity's understanding of embryos. Why create the Fenshen lists? The Fenshen lists given to Yang Ziya by Yuan Shi Tianzun is the key to understanding Investiture of the Gods. Why make such a list? Why launch such a massive god-appointing project? It all comes from a subtle and complicated political game. Yuan Shi Tianzun's 12 disciples, known as the 12 Golden Immortals of the Chan sect, fell into what the novel calls the calamity of the mortal world. What is that? Simply put, these 12 immortals had to descend to the human world and experience killing, suffering, and danger. This calamity, similar to the Buddhist idea of karma dispensation, refers not to a disaster that already happened, but one that is destined to come. The story says, the heavenly emperor ordered that these 12 immortals must bow to him. This led to the idea of 3 teachings united: the Chan sect, the Ji sect, and the human world, together creating 365 divine appointments. Who is the heavenly emperor? He was already the supreme god in Shang and Zhou mythology. Why did he order the 12 immortals to bow? Based on Yuan Shi Tianzun's later reaction, many believe it was because heaven lacked staff. The heavenly emperor wanted to absorb the Jade Void Palace into heaven, just like a government office absorbing its subordinate institutions because it needs more workers. Of course, Yuan Shi Tianzun refused. Why should I become someone else's subordinate when I'm the leader in my own palace? So he came up with a clever plan. He pulled in the Ji sect and the human world and organized a 3-way meeting, creating a Fengshen list divided into 8 departments, containing 365 divine positions. That meant the Chan sect couldn't take all the spots. The Ji sect and the human world had to share the burden. Becoming a god sounds glorious. So why didn't Yuan Shi Tianzun want all the positions for his own sect? Because, to become a god, you must die. Chan sect disciples had to die to enter the Fengshen list. Yuan Shi Tianzun thought, we can't be the only ones dying. Ji sect and mortals should carry part of the quota too. Just then, the human world was entering the era of the fall of the Shang and the rise of the Zhou. This massive war would create countless wandering souls, the perfect opportunity to fill heaven's job openings. Who was the supreme god in ancient China? The entire Fengshen project in Investiture of the Gods began because the heavenly emperor ordered the 12 golden immortals to bow to him. This heavenly emperor Haoshen Shengdi was already present in Shang and Zhou mythology as the supreme ruler of all things. Some listeners may wonder, isn't the Jade Emperor the highest god in Chinese mythology? What's the relationship between Haoshen Shengdi and the Jade Emperor? The term Haoshen simply means vast sky. Hao means expansive, and Haoshen means the boundless heavens. Haoshen Shengdi is essentially a personified form of the supreme god. Even before this title appeared, ancient China already had such a highest deity, referred to as Heavenly Emperor Tiandi, Shengdi, or simply Di. So how did the more familiar Jade Emperor appear? In simple terms, Haoshen Shengdi belongs to the Confucian tradition. The Jade Emperor belongs to the Taoist tradition. They represent 2 different religious systems that later merged in popular belief. Who were the 12 golden immortals of the Chan sect? In folk culture, they are also called the 12 immortals of Yushu or the 12 golden immortals of Kunlun, all referring to the same group. 1. Shi Tianzun's 12 treasured disciples. Naje's master, Taiyi Zhenran, is among them. These 12 immortals were not simply invented out of thin air. Many had historical or religious prototypes, and not all of them came from Taoism. Some even came from Buddhism. They can be grouped into 3 categories. 1. Immortals from ancient Chinese legends. Guangchengzi Qijingzi. 2. Immortals from Taoist tradition. Taiyi Zhenran, Yuding Zhenran, Huang Lon Zhenran, Lingba Grandmaster, Deoxing Tianzun, Qingshu Moro Jinzhen. 3. Immortals with Buddhist origins. Zhuluzin, Mandusari Guangfa Tianzun, Puxian Jinran, Sihang Daoren. Asterisk, was Sudaji really a fox spirit? Was the nine-tailed fox once considered auspicious? The nine-tailed fox first appeared in the classic of Mountains and Seas. North of Qingku lives a fox with 4 legs and 9 tails. At that time, the nine-tailed fox was viewed as a spirit beast, not a monster. Even the legendary flood controller Yu the Great was said to have ties to the nin-tailed foxy, married a woman from the Tushan clan, often associated with the fox spirit, and she later gave birth to Qi, the founder of the Jia dynasty. So how did the nine-tailed fox become the seductive demoness of later stories? During the Jin and Northern Southern dynasties, 2 opposite portrayals emerged. Among the elite, the nine-tailed fox remained a symbol of good fortune. Among the common people, it gradually took on a dangerous, seductive, demonic image. A key work from this period is In Search of the Supernatural, which included the famous fox spirit story, Aziz. This tale introduced the archetype of the seductive fox woman, a figure that soon spread through Chinese folklore. Around the same time, Sudaji's nine-tailed fox identity began entering popular imagination. Daji came from the Yusu clan, which is why she was later called Sudaji. Records of the Grand Historian says, King Zhou loved liquor and pleasure, favored women, and obeyed everything Daji said. This is similar to Investiture of the Gods, but other ancient texts imply political manipulation. King Zhou attacked the Yusu clan, and the Yusu clan offered Daji to him. Daji gained favor and together with Jiao Jibra, down the Shang. This contains a shocking implication. Who was Jiao Jie? He was likely a spy planted by Jichang King, when, by placing Daji and Jiaoji side by side, the text hints that Daji might also have been a spy. The Yusu clan may have offered her as revenge, sending her to help destroy the Shang from within. Such political tactics were not unusual in Chinese history. The state of Yue once sent Qi to the king of Wu for a similar purpose. So when Investiture of the Gods says Nua sent a nine-tailed fox to possess Daji and destroy the Shang, real history may have held a similar pattern, except the mastermind wasn't Nua, but Daji's own people. What was Shen Gongbo's real function? In many stories, there is a thread puller character who weaves everyone into the plot. In Investiture of the Gods, that character is Shen Gongbo. He was originally a disciple of Yuan Shitianzun, but he was never valued. This gave him a deeply tragic undertone. Shen Gongbo believed he had great skill and powerful magic, but his teacher repeatedly ignored him. Resentful and jealous, he began spreading chaos everywhere, persuading different factions to fight Zheng Ziaja. His real talent wasn't magic, it was persuasion, like a diplomat or a strategist from the Warring States era. Different targets, different strategies. Tu Xing son, disciple of Julasan, he used the authority of your senior uncle to create closeness. To Yin Hong, who considered joining the Zhou, he first appealed to filial piety. How can a son help others attack his own father? When Yin Hong objected because King Zhou was immoral, Shen Gongbo shifted tactics and attacked his royal pride. Your ancestral shrine will be destroyed by others. When you die, how will you face your ancestors? Yin Hong was instantly shaken and returned to the Shang. But despite his cleverness, Shen Gongbao was only a tool to Yuan Shitianzun. The Fenshen list required 365 divine slots. Both the Chan sect and the Ji sect had to fill the quota. To become a god, one had to die. Yuan Shitianzun didn't want his own disciples dying, so he hoped more Ji sect disciples would fall. Tangshan Zhaoyuju, leader of Ji sect, of course, understood this, and strictly forbade his disciples from descending the mountain. But Shen Gongbo kept encouraging them to join the war, exactly what Yuan Shitianzun wanted. Later, when Zhulu Hizan captured Shen Gongbao, Yuan Shitianzun pretended he would imprison him under Keeling Cliff. But when Shen Gongbo begged, Yuan Shitianzun conveniently let him go because he was still useful. Interestingly, both Shen Gongbo and Wen Taishi were worshipped in the Lake Baikal region, but in a very bizarre way. Whenever the lake began to freeze, travelers would visit the Shengongbo shrine for safe passage. Then they carved a wooden statue of him, cut a hole in the ice, and sank the statue straight into the water. As the lake froze, when his finger appeared through the ice, people said, "Shengongbo's finger is out. Don't walk on the ice anymore." Later, the fist would emerge. Finally, the whole statue would rise again in spring. The locals then retrieved it with drums and ceremonies. In this strange ritual, Shengongbo became the indicator of whether the ice was safe. With this, friends, we've reached the end of the story of investiture of the gods up to this point. If you started listening from episode 1, then congratulations, you've traveled with me through the earliest legends of China. From Pangu creating the world, to Nua molding humans and repairing the heavens. From the mythical rise of the Dazha dynasty, to the fall of the Shang dynasty, supported by real oracle bone evidence. Together, we've covered about 1,024 years of Chinese history. The Shang dynasty collapsed in flames under King Zhou of Shang's rule, and with its fall, a far longer and even more influential chapter of Chinese civilization began, the Zhou dynasty. The Zhou was the third dynasty in Chinese history, following the Shang, and it was the longest lasting, nearly 800 years, from 1046 BCE to 256 BCE. These 8 centuries are divided into 2 major eras, marked by one decisive turning point. Western Zhou. It began with Wu Qingji Fa's conquest of the Shang and the founding of the capital Haoji, in what is today the southwest of Xianshengxi. This was a period of strong central authority and a well-developed system of rites and music, a classic feudal world in the ancient Chinese sense. The fall of Haoji. In 771 BCE, the nomadic Quanrong tribes invaded Haoji. The Zhou royal family fled eastward to Lui modern Luoyang, Henan. From that moment on, the Zhou king's authority plummeted, and Chinese history entered an age ruled not by kings, but by rising warlords, the Eastern Zhou era. Eastern Zhou. This period is traditionally divided into 2 names we all know well, the Spring and Autumn period, the Warring States period. So in these 800 years of Zhou history, what brilliant cultural treasures still shine across the world today? The birth of Chinese literature, the Book of Songs. The Book of Songs is the earliest anthology of Chinese poetry, containing 305 poems written between early Western Zhou and mid-spring and autumn. It's not only a literary classic, it is also a social encyclopedia of the Zhou world. Together with the later mythic text, the classic of mountains and seas, it helped shape the early imagination and realism of the Chinese people. The peak of military philosophy, the art of war. Written in the late spring and autumn period by the strategist Sun Wu, this work long ago transcended the boundaries of warfare, taught ideas like, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. And, the best victory is the one won without fighting, have influenced battlefields, business strategies, political negotiations, and even individual life planning. It remains the most influential military text in human history, bar none. The Age of Ideas, Confucianism, and Taoism, social upheaval in the Spring and Autumn and Warring States periods, sparked the famous era of 100 schools of thought, with Confucianism and Taoism standing at the center. The Analects. Written by the disciples and later followers of Confucius, it records the teachings and conversations of Confucius and his students, the values of humaneness, righteousness, ritual, wisdom, and trustworthiness. Formed a core of Chinese moral and social thought for over 2,000 years and still influence us today. The Daiyu Deijing. Written by Laozi and only 5,000 characters long, it contains a universe of wisdom. Follow the laws of nature. The highest good is like water. Governed through non-action, these ideas shaped Chinese philosophy, religion, art, and offered the world a unique perspective on living in harmony with nature. But how do we get closest to the original form of these ideas? Our modern printed editions have passed through over the millennia of copying and editing. Changes and errors are inevitable, so how do we touch the teachings as they first appeared? The answer is Warring States bamboo manuscripts. Before paper existed, knowledge was written on bamboo strips and wooden tablets. These manuscripts, handwritten during the Warring States period, 475–221 BCE, are untouched by later editors. They are first-hand, original historical documents. Friends, the story of the Zhou dynasty is, at its core, a story of the birth, collision, transmission, and flourishing of these ideas. Starting next episode, we'll step into this golden age of thought and experience wisdom that has crossed thousands of years to reach us. To help everyone better follow along, I've opened a Blogbanese podcast handbook where I'll post articles on Chinese history and mythology. You'll find things like what Neijie actually looked like, what Daji and the nine-tailed fox originally represented, a complete character relationship map for investiture of the gods, and much more. Please visit bonniespodcasthandbook.blogspot.com. You're welcome to leave comments, ask questions, or let me know what stories you'd like to hear in the future. Thank you, my friends, for staying with me from the very beginning of the tale, all the way to the fall of the Shang dynasty. I'll see you in the next episode, where we begin the story of the Zhou dynasty. Have a nice day. This is Bonnie. In my own way, I'll follow China's historical timeline to tell you mythic stories and unpack the history and culture behind them. Thanks for listening. Please follow the show, and I'll see you next time. Oh, by the way, quick heads up, my other show, Monkey King's Son, Wukong, Journey to the West, is now live. If you love Journey to the West, if you're a true fan of Sun Wukong, you don't want to miss this. I'll walk you through a fresh reading of the story, clear, simple, and fun. We'll unpack the characters and plot, and I'll point out the hidden meanings and the rich Chinese cultural power inside this classic. Just search Monkey King's Son Wukong, Journey to the West. Look for the show with the same icon as this one. Follow along with Bonnie, and let's rediscover Journey to the West together.